Now we're going to look at creating a test or quiz. As you can see, I have a sample one right here already made, but I'm going to go through the steps of creating one from scratch here. First thing I'm going to do is hit Add Test or Quiz. You can find that under your Add Materials button. Now I'm going to give this test a name. For today, I'm just going to call this one Sample. I can choose whether I want to do a numeric or an A plus or minus scale. I can set the points here. I can go to a category, so this could be under my tests or quizzes. If you're using this test or quiz as like a bell ring or exit ticket, you might have a different category you want to assign it to. You can set your availability and dates here, and this is going to set a due date. It's not going to set a start date. So I can set the due date. If I want to select and send just for one section, so maybe you have your blue or your white kids on different days, you could change that as well. Down at the bottom, I can individually assign this. I'm going to assign this just to my sample student in this course. If you have grading groups, you could type in the name of the grading group and send it to just to that group. The next button is the grade statistics, and this is a feature just for students to see. And this would give them kind of like a standard deviation chart and show them where they fell among the class. So were they in the top 50%? Were they in the top 25%? Where exactly did they fall? It doesn't show them what other students scored, just shows them overall this many people scored at the bottom 25%, and then they can kind of see how they did compared to the rest of the class. Next to that, you can allow students to make comments on the test. And then the next one after that is after you've made your test, you could create or copy that test to the rest of your sections. For now, I'm going to go ahead and hit create. And you'll see it automatically opens up this test for you. So there's the name of the test right there. And I could start adding questions here. At this point, I'm going to jump back to my course. And I'm going to use this Harry Potter sample quiz that I've made to show you some different things. So I've made one of each question type here. And if I want to make a different question type, all I do is click any of these options here. So I can do true, false, multiple choice, ordering, short answer, fill in the blank, or matching. I can add questions. I could make a question bank for my classes and then just add questions from there. I can tell it to choose like 10 or 15 questions from a question bank of like 25, and it can randomize that so each student gets different questions. I could import or test or quiz from my resources or from another, like if you used ExamView in the past and you had tests and quizzes from there, you could import them as a Blackboard file into Schoology. You can also put page breaks, so you could have 5 questions on a page and then put a page break so kids only see 5 questions at a time. And then you can also add text, which is just like instructions. So you could put these next 5 questions are about, and you could add text in there. You also have the options, so you can add all these questions. So as you made them during the year, you could add questions to a test, to a question bank. And then you can reorder your questions. So on these, this first one I made a true-false question. So I'm going to open this up for editing so you can see what this looks like. Up in the top, I just add in my true-false statement. And this gives you the rich text editor that Schoology has to use here. So you could also insert an image media, or you could do an audio recording or a video recording asking if something is true or false. Down on the bottom, you could have different text for true or different text for false. So I could say it is false. Harry has no siblings there, and students would see that option so they could click. On true false, you can also require students to do a correction. So if it's false, tell me why it's false. So then they could say Harry has no siblings. You could weight that correction. So right now I put it worth 50%. So this question down here, you can see it's worth 2 points. So they'd have 1 point for getting it correct if it's false. They'd get that second point if they put in that Harry has no siblings. And if you're going to do this correction where students have to type a sentence in, I would suggest that you make this a subjective question so that you have to grade it. It's not automatically graded. Because what they type in back as a sentence may be correct, But if it doesn't exactly match the correct phrase, then Schoology is going to count it wrong. So I would check that box. You can also make this a timed question. So if you want kids only to be able to spend a couple minutes on a question, you can check that box. And then set up, they have maybe 2 minutes to answer that question. Once you're done, you can go ahead and hit Save Question here. And then that question is saved. The next question I made is a multiple choice question. And so here we can see who are Harry's closest friends. On multiple choice, you can have several different choices. So in this one, I got rid of the 4th choice and just have 3. But I could add 15 more choices to this. So it could be a very lengthy choice list. And you can also have more than one correct answer. So here it's Ron and Hermione. So students would have to check both. Okay. You can also randomize the choices, and you can allow partial credit. So when you have more than one answer, as long as they get one of these, so if it were worth 2 points and they answered Ron, they could at least get 1 point for answering that partially correct. At the bottom, you also have this option to align this to learning objectives. So you could attach your standards to this. So I could go to Common Core, and I could add a learning objective. So here it's added. Then if I go to my course mastery grading, then I could see how students have done on specific learning standards. The other thing that is nice on the test is this little show feedback button. And if they answer that, you could pop in and say, great job. If they get it wrong, you could type in what the response should have been or try again. The other thing that you can do in this is if you see that little pencil anywhere, you can use that rich text editor. And so now I can come in and I can add images or media. And let's say I want to use media. I could do a video showing students how to answer that question or where to find the information. If it's something that's on the web, you could use like a Khan Academy video and embed it. Or if it's a video that you've made, you could attach that video there to help students. And then it's kind of like an online tutoring system. So you're helping students figure out where they went wrong. So anytime you see a box and you can see that little pencil, that means that you can use that rich text editor, and you can use all those tools that are up there. So really take advantage of that. This next question is ordering. And so in this one, I have ordering the Weasley children from oldest to youngest. And you simply just type things in the order that that you would want students to put them into. So you type them in the correct order. You could use this ordering system for lots of different contents or topics. You just have to think about how you would have them do this. You might allow partial credit, so they have to get at least, and once you've clicked that, it's going to ask you how many do they have to get in order correctly for you to get any partial credit. And then you can also do that timed question there as well. And you'll notice once again, if you hover above any of these boxes, you can click and get that rich text editor. So I'm going to save that question. You have the option for short answer / essay. So this is simply going to allow students to type into the box like an essay answer or short answer. You can set a character limit so the students can't go past a certain amount. You can allow students to do that rich text editor. So if you want them to do like an audio or a video response, they can do that a lot as well. And you'll want to click that allow audio or video answers here. Okay. If all you're going to let them do is that audio or video answer, you don't want them to type in text, you might hide that text field. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And then you can also set this to be a timed question. So they have 5 minutes to answer you back. When it comes to printing out a test, if you have a student who can't use their device or if they prefer a printed test, you may, if this is going to be a longer answer, change it from short answer to essay. All that's going to do is when you print out the test, give more space for them to write. Down here you can set the points And on a short answer essay, you can also add a rubric for grading. Since it's not a self-graded, you could create a rubric and add that in there for that question. And students would be able to see some of that rubric. And then you can still align it to a learning standard. Once I'm done, I can go ahead and save that. I also have the option to do fill in the blank. And anytime you're typing a fill in the blank, if you do an underscore, it's going to set up another blank, so you can have multiple blanks going here. So you can see my first blank should be Crom. Now I have my second one here. I can type in Potter. I'm going to delete that. Okay. Now I can allow partial credit, so if they get one of these right, one wrong, they still get a point. I can also have a word bank. And in my word bank, I can add filler words. So if I were just going to have these two questions, I might add a word bank so that it's not as easy for students to figure out which is which. So I could add those filler words in there, or kind of distractors in there. I can make things case sensitive. So since they're names, they have to put an uppercase letter. And once again, I can time this, and I could give it a point value, and then I'm ready to save that question. The last question type we have is matching. And so here I have match each person to their Hogwarts house. And so I have Draco, Ron. And as you can see here, I've put in images instead of the wording. To do that, I just used online images. And what I have done is I have just searched for the crest. And Google, and then I just grab this link. I use my rich text editor, go up to insert content from the web, and it's an image, and I just paste that link in there. And now I can get rid of this wording because I have my crest there. If I want to make this image bigger or smaller, I can. So I'm going to make it a little smaller. And then save changes. So now I have images that kids can use for matching. And then I can click Save Question. Now if I have all my questions in here and I'm ready for students to take the test, the next thing I'm going to want to check is the Settings menu. And this is going to be instructions, so when they first click on the link for this test, I can give them short instructions. Once again, this is that rich text editor, so I could add audio or video. I can add links here. Okay. Under attempts, if I'm ready for them to take the test, I want to allow attempts. I can allow attempts until a certain time, so until that due date. I can allow attempts between certain time frames. And then if I have disable attempts, they won't be able to get into the test at all. For the sample, I'm just going to allow attempts. I could set up a time limit if I want. I can set up an attempt limit, so I can allow them to do this 3 times. And then I can grade by the highest score, their last score, or their average score. Okay. I could set up a keyboard language for them between English or Spanish here. The other option that you may want to check here is resumable. You might make this resumable. That way, if a student loses wireless connection, it doesn't automatically submit their test. They can come back in and pick up where they left off and finish that test out. And then under View Submissions, if you click No, the students won't be able to see what they got, results of their quiz or test yet. If you do Yes, students can see what they got score, like is right or wrong, but they won't see the answers. They'll just know that they got it right or they got it wrong. If you do yes with correct answers, then if students got a question wrong, it'll also mark which one was right so they can see which one was correct. If you're doing printing, you can choose how many lines to leave for printing options here, but I'm going to go ahead and click Save Changes. And now my test is ready for students to use. Now that we have made a test, let's see how this looks for my sample student. So I'm in that sample student's profile right now, or on their course page. And here's that Harry Potter quiz. Now I've already done one submission as I was doing my practice things today. But I can click this test quiz and I can start a new attempt here. And here's my true or false question. So here's if I click false, I can have to type in that response. Here's my multiple choice, multiple answer question. Now, if this were a multiple choice but a single answer question, instead of these little squares, students will see a circle and it'll just let them pick one answer. Here's my ordering question, and I can simply drag these into order. Here was my essay short answer question, and if you remember, I just did record a video recording, so you can hit just record answer, and then it'll have this option for students so they can record their audio or they can do video audio. Once again, since I'm doing a recording right now, I'm not going to use this feature. This is the fill in the blank, and if I click on blank 1 or blank 2, you'll see that it highlights which blank I'm working with. And I can either start typing in the answer, and it'll add it up here, or I can click on this one, and then I can just click on one of my words from my word bank, and it'll add it in there. Here's my matching question. So now if I want to match these, I just click next to the name, and I can put in the letter that corresponds with the correct answer here. And you'll see the lines show which ones are matching. Once I'm done, I can go ahead and submit that assignment. And once I'm done as a student, I've set it up so it would tell me what the correct, incorrect answers are. Okay. So here I can see what I got wrong, what I got right. Here's that one I added feedback to. So here it gave me some feedback. If I had a video for feedback, that video would pop up here as well. But this is what it looks like to a student. Once students have finished taking the test, I can go ahead and grade it. And if I click on that test name, it's going to take me to the results tab after students have taken it. And here you can see it puts a star out of 50 or a star out of 40 because there's some subjective questions that I need to grade. If all the questions were automatic grade questions, then the score would already be in here. The whole test would already be graded for you. So if I'm ready to go back and grade some of these questions, I can go ahead and click View Attempts. This student has 2 attempts, so I'm going to go ahead and click View Edit from this gear over here on the second attempt. And now I can see every score. So they got 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10. Here's some of those that I needed to subjectively grade. So like this one, I can give them just 1 point because they only got half of it correct. On this video one, I didn't do a video earlier, so I could just leave a 0 in there. And now once I've added all of those scores, I can go ahead and hit Save Changes. And now if I go to the gradebook, I can see that quiz test score in there.